Good day, Internet. This is DTNS Live for Thursday, April 17th, 2025. From Studio Animal House, I'm Sarah Lane.
From Columbus, Ohio, I'm Robb Dunewood.
And I'm Roger Chang, the show's producer.
Daily Tech News Show Live is made possible by its listeners thanks to all of you, including Dale McCohay, Matt Zaglin, Jeff Wilkes, and our new patron, Alan.
Alan! Yeah. Right. New patron, Alan. Cool stuff. We always love a new patron. And welcome to all of you to DTNS Live. This is the show where we discuss the tech news. Believe it or not, that's what we do here to help us all understand it a little bit better. Robb Dunewood, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. In the green room, we were talking about potentially traveling to Hawaii, and I'm just sitting here thinking about that's a wonderful place I can't afford to go. But it's not an inexpensive trip from the East Coast.
I mean, it's sure when you live in California, it's the more sort of obvious place to go rather than like the Caribbean. I'd be like, whoa, who's going to the Caribbean? You know, that kind of thing. Or, you know, Florida, like how very magical of you. Hawaii is still expensive. Definitely. In fact, one of my new favorite renovation shows, I don't know if you guys have heard of it, called Renovation Aloha, is all about, you know, basically flipping houses on various islands in Hawaii. And boy, are those numbers high.
I wouldn't say I watched that show, but I've seen an episode or two of it. And it's like, that costs that. It's just amazing how much that land costs when it's finite. Granted, it's getting bigger, but it's still pretty finite as far as how much space there is. So it's very expensive.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we are here to talk tech news. Hawaii might come back into it later. Who even knows? But let's start out with the quick hits.
Instagram launched a new feature called Blend, letting users create personalized Reels feeds with a friend or group chat. Blends are invite only for now, refresh daily with new content, and can notify users when someone reacts to a Reel. To create a blend, you tap on the new icon in the DM chat and send an invite. For Spotify users, this is similar to Spotify Blend playlist.
The state of New Jersey has sued Discord, accusing it of failing to protect children from harmful content. Attorney General Matthew Platkin said Discord's design choices, like defaulting to weaker messaging scanning and lacking strict age verification, puts minors at risk. The lawsuit follows a multi-year investigation and cites examples of child exploitation on the platform.
The Financial Times sources say Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang traveled to China this week to meet with the Chinese Vice Premier He Lifeng and DeepSeek founder Liang Wenfeng. Following a new U.S. export restriction on Nvidia's H20 chips, Nvidia previously announced a $5.5 billion earnings hit from the latest restrictions, but is trying to stay in the Chinese market.
Bloomberg sources say Perplexity's voice assistant will be a feature in Motorola's upcoming Razr, set for April 24th. Motorola reportedly plans to offer Perplexity alongside Google's Gemini with a special UI to promote Perplexity specifically. Perplexity also said it's working with T-Mobile on an AI phone and is said to be in early talks to bring its assistant to Samsung devices as well. So a lot of stuff with Perplexity going on here, reportedly.
At Meta's ongoing antitrust trial Wednesday, CEO Mark Zuckerberg testified that TikTok's rise in 2018 caused Meta's growth to slow down dramatically. He noted TikTok remains a top focus for Meta's competitive efforts. Zuckerberg also said social media apps now act more as discovery engines rather than platforms for connecting friends.
Chris Krebs resigned from SentinelOne after our current U.S. president signed an executive order calling Krebs a bad faith actor who weaponized his authority during the 2020 election. The order also pushed for suspending security clearances for Krebs and entities linked to him, including SentinelOne. We don't often talk about the city of San Diego here on DTNS Live, but today is one of those days. So a blog that handles San Diego and surrounding areas called Voice of San Diego posted a story about community colleges, specifically Southwestern College, which is in the Southern California city of Chula Vista, where the professors, some of them anyway, are claiming that they're being flooded with fake bot students who enroll and then steal financial aid and use AI-generated work to make it seem like they're actual students. If you're scratching your head about this, let's unpack this a little bit because, I was doing the same this morning when I read the story. So professors say they're now forced to play detective to figure out, wait a second, is this a student or a bot student? And is it wasting my time as somebody who's supposed to be actually, helping humans learn things? They also say the administration hasn't done enough to help real students access to classes and is damaging trust between teachers and students. Okay, so the deal is for anybody not in the California system, and I am not familiar with Southwestern College, but I did go to a community college my first year of college as well, up in Northern California, and many of them act the same and get some state and federal funds that are similar. If you're a pretty good student coming out of high school, you don't have to be like the valedictorian, but you're getting A's, maybe a B here and there. You're almost 4.0. You can just go to a community college for free. And again, I haven't been in college for a while, so things might be different, but it made so much sense to me. Instead of having to have my parents pay for me to go to a 4-year college, and I didn't really know where I wanted to go yet, it's like, why not get some of that undergrad stuff out of the way? You have to do it anyway. You have to take an English course you don't want to take. You have to do like an anthropology course that might not be part of your major, that sort of stuff. So a lot of kids actually do this to save money. I mean, you really, it's buying books alone. You know how it is, Rob. You got kids in college. So that's a big part of this. However, during the pandemic, Southwestern College says, all right, well, we, as many other institutions, took a lot of stuff online. And because of that, a lot of those courses just work better for not only the students, but the professors online. But then you don't have FaceTime with the student. And if the student is sort of like, hi, I'm a person and I get a grant from California and that's so great. And I'm going to get, $10,000 for taking this class. And then they're not real. And they just sort of submit AI work to sort of seem real until they get the money and then they bounce out of there. That is very frustrating. And that's what this story is about.
My first thought is that, man, these scammers are doing a lot of work to scam. And it's like, if you just put that to good use, you might actually end up making more. But it sounds like, well, if you're going to get aid, maybe the aid that you get is actually more than what it costs to go to school. So I would imagine that they're trying to live in the margins. If tuition is $8,000 and you got $10,000 in aid, you get the $2,000 that you could use for like living expenses and things like that. So that's where they would ultimately make the money. It just seems like that's an awful lot of work to scam if you could just take those same skill sets and use them for good.
Yeah, and I have a feeling it isn't just one student. Like these are individual students that are doing these bots. I think it's maybe one or two groups, and then they have a plethora of students online that they can basically register and apply for either grants or loans or anything to get the money, and then they disappear. And this is one of the things that unfortunately a lot of these services that have gone online need to have better vetting, because there are unfortunately bad faith actors that have more interest in acquiring the dollars than they are getting an education. And if there are enough of them, then they can make it a business to no one's benefit except their own.
Yeah, I mean, the idea of making a quick buck out of something like this is certainly is not concentrated on community colleges. But for anyone who's like, wait a second, so I mean, so Southwestern College in Chula Vista, a community college, what's the difference between that and a 4-year university? And I mean, for California is a little
different.
Well, yeah, we're a little different in lots of ways, but the school system in California is very, very specific to California. So I know this doesn't work in a lot of other places, but for example, if you graduate high school and you're not going to get into a college or the college that you want, right? Your GPA isn't good enough. Your SATs weren't great. That blah blah blah. A community college can be a good transition into the college life. And if you're, for example, like me in 1994, when I was, exiting high school, gosh, and, I was sort of like, I don't know what I want to do. And all the colleges that I could even get into are really expensive. My parents can't pay for this. The community college route is a really, really good one. It's not for everybody, but it basically just lets you just kind of coast, and then you can transition into that school that you want after a year or two, much more easily because you're already in the system. So, and community colleges will accept lots of students. Maybe you're a D student. It's like you can still go to community college.
You can have not been in school for over 50 years and go into a community college and still get into a 4-year. At least the way I understand most community colleges and JCs in the U.S., if anyone who's outside the U.S. is not familiar, it is sort of a bridging school between your secondary and tertiary education. And what it allows you to do is to do things at a much smaller scale. Basically, in U.S. universities, your first 2 years are undergraduate work and really has nothing to do with your major.
Yeah.
JC's community colleges allow you to get that out of the way, and then you can transfer, at least in California, you can transfer to a UC or a state school, or you can go to something like Cal Poly, or you can go to Caltech, and they will take your credits on face value because they have a system that allows those transfers to happen. And unfortunately, for the longest time, anyone who's ever been in not just JCs but any kind of school, there are a lot of people that find a system to scam money out of. Initially, when I went to school, it was out of books, right? There's always scammers who would buy your books super cheap and then sell them back at a slight markup, not as much as the school would charge them, but enough that they could make their 50% back. And this is unfortunately just a new way of doing it, and unfortunately at scale. And I have a feeling a lot of these actors aren't even in the U.S., perhaps overseas, where they run multiple sort of scamming operations as
well, yeah. Business. I mean, I think that's the implication is that they're bots. Where the bots are originating from, not clear. But it's sort of like, okay, let's say, I'm not Sarah, I'm a bot. And I apply for, I enroll in this geology class, right? And I'm not real. But I can submit some like AI work and just make it seem like I'm real to the point where I get my money because the state is going to give me money as I have proven that I'm actually in school. And the professor, meanwhile, is just wasting their time on, people who don't actually care about the curriculum. I feel for the teachers, really.
I feel for the teachers, but I feel for the system because you're taking financial aid from actual living, breathing kids.
Too.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
And it's infuriating because this is one of the few access points for people, especially from lower economic backgrounds, to access higher education at a way that they can manage financially. And then you get a bunch of jerks either offshore or somewhere in the US just, raking it in because they're being, jerks.
So let me first just shout out Laminar Rainbow for giving us a super chat. So thank you for that. But community colleges, I know multiple young people who are going the community college route for a couple of reasons. Like, here in Columbus, we've got Ohio State and then we've got Columbus State. They are literally down the street from each other almost. And if you are an incoming freshman to Ohio State, you are paying orders of magnitude more to go there than you would pay to go take the same freshman style classes as you would literally 4 miles away. I don't even know if it's 4 miles. It may be less than that. But just a few miles away at Columbus State, where you're paying maybe a tenth of the tuition that you would pay at a school like Ohio State. So it's just an economic thing. It's just, I want to take the exact same classes. Let me take them here where they're less expensive. And then when I get done here, I'll have an associate's degree. I am way more employable than someone who is just in their second year of college because I have that associate's degree. And I can still go to Ohio State and finish my degree there and graduate along there with everyone else and get done in 4.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's exactly what I did. It was truly this is just economically, it didn't make any sense to go into deep debt. And listen, I know there's a whole conversation about college students who are in, many, many years of deep debt, even though they have a really great degree coming out of the college. But for a lot of folks, it's not really like I have options. It's like, no, this is my option. So, going back to the community college bots, because community colleges, again, will accept kind of everybody. I mean, within reason, but where like you're not going to go to Cal Berkeley, if you have a 3.6, like there's no way you're not getting in. But you can go to a community college and then you can go to Berkeley later, perhaps, if you do well and take it seriously. So yeah, bots and scams proliferate, and this is just one of the newest ones. All right, Rob, let's talk about Google. It has been sort of a bad year in federal court for the company.
Not even a full year, Sarah. It's been a bad 8 months because back in August, Google was found to be operating an illegal monopoly in online search. And today it's been found that it's illegally acting to maintain a monopoly on online advertising technology. So a 115-page ruling by Judge Leonie Brinkema of the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of Virginia found Google guilty of breaking the law to establish its dominance in ad tech. So the Justice Department, it in 17 states, they sued Google, saying that Google was a monopoly and that they were using their ad technology to ultimately charge higher prices and take a bigger portion of each sale because they basically controlled everything that you did. So it was almost like you had no choice but to go with them. And Judge Brinkema sided with them on this part of the case, stating that, and I quote this, in addition to depriving rivals of the ability to compete, the exclusionary conduct substantially harmed Google's publisher customers, the competitive process, and ultimately consumers of information in the open web. So Judge Brinkema, she also dismissed one portion of the case, ruling that Google didn't meet the criteria of a monopoly for open web display tools. But ultimately, she did find against Google in this case. So the ruling, it could have massive implications for a company that is worth $1.88 trillion. Google is definitely one of the tech giants. And it could reshape how they ultimately, work on the web and how they do what they do. The DOJ preemptively asked the court to break up Google, forcing it to sell pieces of its ad tech business. And when you factor in the company's search business is also a monopoly, and I believe it's very soon that they're going to be, working on the ramifications of of that case where they actually lost. This could be a really real possibility that you could see Google being told, or Alphabet, the parent company, being told, you can't not have everything. You can't have search, and you can't have Gmail, and you can't have Chrome, and you can't have Android, and all these things. You could see a fundamental breaking up of this company. Don't know if that's going to be the case, but that at least is on the table.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not a cynic by any stretch of the imagination, regardless of what other people on the show might inform you about my personality. But I also know that a lot of these things, especially things like this, move at a glacial pace. Right? You'll be, if you're starting as a freshman now, you probably won't hear any real movement until you graduate with your degree in 4 years' time, because there is a lot of back and forth. And I'm wondering specifically what Google is more than willing to just let go of, like in terms of their business. Like all their online business is pretty cohesive. I can see them maybe separating the browser and maybe Android, but like the all the other online stuff is sort of just like a self sort of a single package, right? It's whether it's Gmail, whether it's search, they all feed into each other. Whether it's Gemini, it all feeds into each other, and that might be a little more sticky in terms of what they are willing to do.
But the antitrust case, as I understand it, is about a monopoly position in ad tech, right?
Yeah.
So like that's what's going on with Google. So I don't know that even if Google is found guilty and has to pay a huge fine and has to break up certain things, how does that affect the end user? I mean, me, for example, who uses lots of Google products, do I really care that Google has to now pay a bunch of money because they, allegedly, abused dominant power in ad tech? I don't know how much that changes things for me.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Rob.
I think what could change here is that Google would be forced to maybe break apart their ad tech monopoly, because that's where they're losing here. That's ultimately what could be affected. And so what would that look like? Right now, Google owns Chrome. They dominate in the browser market. Inside of Chrome, just typing a URL without actually typing a URL, you just go to the URL bar and search for something. That's search. So search is built into Chrome. And then once you do that search, they display the ads. I think that's where you're going to see them say, hey, you know what? You need to separate the search from the ads. That is what seems to be very, very problematic here. Or maybe just the technology for how you're deriving at who gets served what ad at what time. That can't be part of your core business, as well as this other piece of your core business. Maybe that's how they get broke up. When it comes to the rest of the things, Google is still, they are a very big company. I don't know that you're going to see them broken up where it feels different. Like it feels like Google becomes another company. They've already kind of done this. You think, the parent company is Alphabet. So these things they're already kind of siloed. So even if they were told that, hey, it's something drastic, you can't have ads and you can't have search as a company, those things have to go away, then I think that you would start looking at it as it's just a company that's called something other than Google and something other than Alphabet, but we still perceive them the same way. It's not like those companies aren't going to work with each other and create deals. They will just now have to create deals with other companies as well. They wouldn't be able to favor themselves as they are right now.
It reminds me of when they broke up Ma Bell, AT&T, and part of because it was a monopoly. And what you saw were all these, like you would have Southern Bell, you would have Northeastern Bell, you would have all these little baby
Pacific
bells.
Bell.
They called them baby bells, yeah. But over the decades, they just sort of like the T-1000 in Terminator 2. They all just sort of recoalesced back into the singular entity we know as AT&T. And I think, Google will initially just try to like do some very public, like, hey, look, we're going to add this new search bar that's separate from the URL bar. So when you go to search, you can select whatever search engine you want, and thereby making it not an integrated feature, but a opt-in feature for the user. And so they'll do a lot of these, and there's going to be a lot of back and forth. But realistically, I mean, how long did it take for Microsoft to not integrate IE into its Windows operating system, sort of, and then they just sort of eventually just ditched it and gave you a new browser anyway?
I kind of see this coming that way because what do I think is going to happen? I think that Google is going to have to write the federal government an incredibly large check because, as you said, Roger, it's going to be a while before this stuff gets fleshed out. And because it's going to be a while, the market is changing. Search is not what it used to be. Ads are definitely not what they used to be. So if they've got to cut something out, say, hey, we're going to cut our ad business out, let that go be another company, and we'll milk that. And that company will milk ads until ads are no longer a thing that we think of the way that we think of them today. And we will just keep moving on in the future, making money in different ways. Maybe it's more on services, which they're really leaning into it these days.
I mean, and the truth is, and Justin's really kind of hammered away on this, like the ad business isn't the same as it was 10 years ago, right? There's
not even close.
There's the same amount of ad dollars, but there's now maybe 5 to 6 times more areas you can put that money into. And so, the money's been sort of drying up for Google anyway, and they're just looking for another way. Maybe not a giant cash windfall the way that ad search was, but maybe something that they could cobble together that did equal the same value. I mean, Gemini, I think, is a key portion of that. But I mean, it'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see this company try to pivot into something that makes its money from something else, which I've yet to see it do successfully in a way that you can say, like, yeah, this is going to totally scale into its own $1 trillion business.
Yeah, I mean, Google's obviously made, just in the ad space, that is front facing enough for someone, like me to be able to notice, Google is definitely trying to pivot. How Google can pivot and keep the behemoth throne that it's on now, hard to say. It's like, if you want to go AI, it's like, okay, Gemini's great, but we're you got a lot of competition. Google had done something that no other company had done before for so long, that whether it's a monopoly or not, it was the dominant company in the ad space. And continues to be, really. So
and
we'll
they
we'll
built
see how
a bunch
that
of
works
products
out.
around that, and
yeah. Well, if you have thoughts on this or anything else we talk about on the show, one way to let us know what you care about and want to hear more about is in our subreddit. Submit stories and vote on them at reddit.com/r/dailytechnewsshow. All right, Roger, we're switching gears to Shaken Like a Polaroid Picture. The company recently released a new camera that combines that nostalgia, but also new stuff, right?
Yeah, so this week Polaroid announced the Polaroid Flip. Now, it is kind of your standard Polaroid camera, but with a few 21st century tweaks. They added 4 fixed lenses. Now, the original Polaroid just had a fixed focal length, so you had to physically zoom in or out or get things into focus with your feet. But in this case, it has 4 fixed lenses, so it's not like a infinite zoom where you can just sort of dial it in manually. It uses a sonic sensor to determine the range and then picks the most appropriate lens. You still might have to do a little shuffle to get it razor sharp image wise. But in the LED, in the LED viewfinder, there's a little sensor that tells you whether your shot is over or underexposed, so you can turn on or off flash. And it is compatible with Polaroid's I-Type and 600 film, which is their Insta film. And each pack is about 8 shots. And what I find so interesting is that their whole advertising, their whole marketing around this is about the analog experience, like the old-timey, like, I want to feel my photos, I want to shake it, I'm at the bowling alley. Yeah, I can add all the funny, little emojis and stuff like that, but obviously there's a market for this. I mean, there's a market for this camera, or else they wouldn't be making it. And I'm always impressed by any kind of technology that makes its way back, sort of, maybe not directly, but sort of a way, but has a new few twists. For example, I have this stereo in my bedroom. It's called the Keyed. It's if you saw a picture of it, right, we have right in here, the center of it is actually a Volkswagen W car stereo. So it's literally the car stereo that go into the dash of a Volkswagen a Passat or whatever, and they made a boombox around it. And so it has a CD player, it has the knobs to turn it on. You press the button like you would in the car. It's the weirdest thing, but it works great. And I've always felt that it's a nice blend of just tactile. It takes CDs, it still has a radio tuner, but you can connect it to an MP3 player and the rest via Bluetooth. And I was wondering, for both of you, or is there like any technology you would like to see come back from the good old days of the 80s or 90s, or maybe even the 70s, but maybe just have that one little technology twist that makes it even better?
Well, so the Polaroid, and I don't remember exactly what model we had, but it was like that classic, mid 80s Polaroid camera that a lot of families had. You kind of went from like, oh, we took photos on someone's camera, and then there's a whole like 10 years of my life where all the pictures are Polaroid. And then we kind of, moved beyond that. And this is, way before anything that was, digital image was a factor. But yeah, I mean, the idea of the Polaroid has never really lost the
appeal.
No, it's a party trick at this point, right? It's like someone has a Polaroid camera or something that's Polaroid-esque, right? It's like you take a photo, it comes out, you see the photo right away, people go, whoa, cool. Polaroid, they were the first to do that. So you can do that in a lot of other places now with a lot of other products. I mean, go to CES sometime. The vinyl folks and the Polaroid-esque folks are having a great time with lots of products that they hope will surprise and delight the modern person. But yeah, Rob, I mean, is there anything else you think about that's like this?
I miss my box from back in the day, my boom box. I actually used to be one of those guys that before I was 6'4" and 300 pounds and, built like a refrigerator, I used to think I could break dance. And I was one of those dudes that would walk around with a giant box, and I'd have probably 5 or 6 cassettes, on me at all times. And I would go wherever it was I was going, and then we would set up, and then we would work on our breakdance moves. Just for nostalgia's sake, do I want to actually carry that box around? Probably not. But it would be cool if I just had a speaker system that was portable like that. And I know that you can get these portable speakers, but I'm talking about something that literally looks like one of those old school big boom boxes where I can just, instead of having to put a cassette in it, let me just hit a button. It opens up like a cassette would, and I just slide my phone down into it and then, and then push the phone back. And it just gives me that feel of when I was in the 8th grade walking around with a 10-pound radio with a cassette player in the middle of it.
Well, and would putting the phone, like sliding the phone into the slot, closing it and pressing play, would it give you more satisfaction than just being like, oh yeah, we're on the same Wi-Fi network, so I can just play whatever's on my phone?
Yeah, because I'm going for the nostalgia. So I literally want to physically press a button, have the drawer open. I slide my phone. Now, me sliding the phone doesn't have to do anything. I just want the feel of I push this button, I put the phone in, I close it back, I hit another physical button, and then it just starts playing whatever music I had queued up. Because once again, if with a box, whatever was on the tape was what was going to play.
Yeah.
So that just having all of that tactile feel of just having that big giant device. As I said, would I use this? No. Like if I'm going on vacation, I'm taking that thing. I want to take the little Bose box that is the size of a half a box of tissues that gives you incredible sound. But just for like at the cookout or something like that, you're doing something with family, it would just be really cool to just show the kids, this is how I used to listen to music. Because if I still had a box, I think it would be like my records. We talked about this last week. I think it would be like having, a record. I don't want to get that thing damaged, so it's going to be in a hermetically sealed room. But if it's just a piece of tech that I'm buying today and it kind of looks like a box, yeah, I'd love that at the cookout.
And there maybe is something, not everybody's going to agree with me, but there might be something to being like, my phone has to go in there, then we play the music, and it's like the olden days where that's my stereo. I'm playing music, and yeah, I'm not, I'm not fiddling around with my phone. Otherwise, it is driving the song for the cookout.
I've always wondered if there would be a resurgence in like VCRs, right? Because one of the big, excuse me. One of the big subcultures on YouTube is like the lost video, right? I found this lost collection of my dad's VHS tapes or my old VHS tapes where we recorded, 5 hours of home improvement or whatever, and the appended commercials. And I've always wondered, it's like there has to be a market where you can have a new sort of a tape deck that plays videos or record videos, but maybe not so limited in the way that VCRs originally were. Like, what if you could slide like a hard drive into it, and you close it down, and then you can just record and play back from it because it's just a DVR, but with a little kind of kitschy little VCR like feel with the faux wood veneer that they used to put on those things.
Yeah.
I mean, they built a Volkswagen dealership literally around the corner from my house. I mean, I could, if I don't catch one light out of my development, I could probably get there in less than 2 minutes. And there is a old school looking station wagon with the fake wood paneling on it. So it's like, man, it just, whatever, get one, no. But it brings back the memories from, I remember when I was a little kid, I was in Cub Scouts, and our den mother, that's what she drove. And, she'd pile 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 Cub Scouts into the back of this big, Volkswagen, type of, car with the wood paneling on it. And I just always thought that it was cool.
Yeah. I can't even think of what model that would be. But yeah, I mean, going back to childhood, I mean, there are a lot of things that we think of fondly, like Polaroid cameras, like, oh, so fun. Wasn't that so great, to watch it, just come alive before your eyes. You have like, because again, the idea, Polaroid, I mean, shout out to Polaroid. The idea that you could just see the photo that you took instantaneously, or
like
within
seconds.
A minute, right? Was really novel. Otherwise, you have to like put your film canister, send it to a place. They will give it back to you at whatever point that you go back and pick. I mean, the whole idea of seeing something, at the offset of taking it was really a big deal at the time. Of course, now everyone's like, I mean, digital cameras, you just look at the back. I mean, you see what you took.
So that's the ironic part, is that for now, the Polaroid sort of takes that back, in that you can't do over. You only got 8 shots. So if you take a photo, you got to be serious. You can't goof off, or if you do goof off, get the face that you want, because this is like a one-time deal. And so,
well, yeah, because you're using like tactile materials,
right?
Yeah, it's an analog thing, and you're limited. And there is there's an element of kind of novelty in that, right? And so, in an age where you can redo anything as many times as you want, and you can always have an indelible copy of it, something that's a little more ephemeral, something that's a lot more limited, in a way, has its own appeal.
Well, Rest of World has a story today about Venezuelan migrants who relied on click work to get by. We'll talk a little bit more about click work in a second, but now are being displaced by generative AI, which now handles many lower level digital tasks. Something that a human did before and had to, now sometimes AI can actually do that task. Once a major workforce for AI training platforms such as Appen. If you haven't heard of it, Appen is a company that will employ humans to do things like go through a variety of, shots about fires, and be like, yes, that's a fire that happened in this place, and give it a tag. This is, a fire that happened in this place. These people were displaced by the fire. Yes. So it's more or less kind of doing SEO stuff. Once these workers actually were employed by companies like Appen, which is not the only one to do this, but are now facing more scarce and lower paying jobs, often without contracts or any kind of stability. And a big part of that is because AI has become a factor in this sort of thing. As companies realize, oh, we can automate a lot of this stuff, then some of these jobs become redundant. Complex AI tasks still there. They're stuff that humans are doing behind the scenes to make AI smarter, that humans are still necessary to do, but access is being limited by infrastructure and resource constraints, especially for the Venezuelan folks, the Rest of World Story gave an example of a Venezuelan woman who now lives in Colombia, and is just honestly just trying to get by. Any day, any time of day, any day of the week, any hour. It's time to make a little bit of money. So freelance rates are plummeting. Many workers either adapt by using AI tools themselves, right? ChatGPT is among them, or just leaving the industry altogether. But I wanted to get everyone's thoughts here on the panel of we talk a lot about, is AI taking your job? And for many people, the answer is no. It might change your job. It might make your job better. But when it comes to some of these, again, lower level digital tasks that feel kind of like, yeah, you can automate this, it is going to change your life, and it is going to take your job.
There are definitely jobs that are going to be lost specifically because AI was able to automate something that a person used to have to do. But it's not just AI. Right now, we're in the AI phase, so that's what everybody is thinking about. But just industrialization, just doing things more efficiently, ultimately are going to displace jobs. So the question comes in: do you have to put a governor in place? Do you have to stop progress so that people who are employed to do something in a manual way that is no longer necessary to do it in a manual way? You can do it more cost effectively, more accurately if you use a computer to do it. Do we have to hold that progress? I don't know what the answer is to that.
I mean, what this sort of brought to my attention was the number of people who actually do sort of digital gigs, because it is such a low barrier to entry. If you read the article, one of the reasons why so many Venezuelans are into kind of click work is because they often reside in countries where they have yet to receive a work permit, or they have just arrived. What they do have is a computer, and they can get an internet connection, so they can at least make enough money to support themselves or their family in the immediate term. And if you've ever used a service like TaskRabbit or any sort of similar Fiverr, where it's all online digital, it got me to thinking, how many of those people might be in a similar position where, because of legal, political reasons, this is literally the only ways that they can make any sort of income. And it's interesting, because when you think about AI work, when you think about the work that it impacts, you often think of white collar. I work in a corporate environment, an office environment, and so therefore I'm a salaried employee. But it turns out a lot of individuals are often also below the line. They are the individuals that don't have any kind of regularized status in the country that they're either refugees in or just residing in because of political strife back home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's a quandary, because it's like we are paying people to do work that ultimately will replace the people that we pay to do the work. And for the companies, it's like, okay, well, I paid 10x for the people to do it. The people did the work, and now I can pay 4x to get exactly the same thing done. So from a company standpoint, do you stay less productive or go more productive? What do you do to bolster your bottom line? As I said earlier, I don't know what the answer is to that, because there are a lot of people that are going to be displaced. But I remember, and this is going back years ago, but I think it was when Barack Obama was running for president. He had made the comment about about just moving forward and having basically more automation and stuff. And it's like, well, back in World War I, we used a lot of bayonets. Today, we really don't have a lot of people who are making bayonets. So that job has kind of been dried up. That's not the exact quote, but that's the essence of what he was saying. And I think that we are coming to a time to where if you used to have a job where it was, look at this picture of a cat and look at that picture of a cow and tell me which one is a cat. If you've done that type of work may be drying up, because the AI is now good enough. It knows what a cat is, and it can do it as effectively, if not in some cases, maybe even more effectively than what people were able to.
And I think what's fascinating on this is that so many of these people effectively put themselves out of work because they were doing what you're describing, Rob. They were literally training these tools in order for them to.
It's not like they did anything wrong.
No. This is not a judgment call. This is not like they did bad, but rather just sort of the irony of the situation that they find. And these people aren't like ill-informed or poorly educated. One of them was trained as a petroleum engineer, right? She was trained, at a university to find and how to access, oil under the seabed. And so she has a very deep skill set. Unfortunately, it's not something that she can leverage at the moment. But digital work is one of those go-to that it was always kind of reminded me, like when I was between jobs, I did a lot of contract work, which was almost 95% online. Edit this video, copy edit this, help me with this website. And it's still a go-to for a lot of people, again, because the barrier of entry is so low to access it.
Yeah.
I think we're going to get to a point to where people are just going to start doing different types of jobs, because for everything the AI does, there's a ton of stuff that AI doesn't do yet. So that's where folks are going to, they're going to find they're going to find, okay, where is the area where I can actually go do something that people are willing to pay to have done that AI isn't doing yet. And I think it'll always kind of be that way. We're always going to move to where we are, we're in a situation where we're going to use technology more tomorrow than we use it today. I don't think that's ever going to stop.
Yeah, and maybe there's sort of like a bridge job. So the person who was sort of like, that's a cat or that isn't a cat, that person may be, has had enough experience to become a skilled worker in being like, that is a cat, but there's something a little weird about this. And not that we're, just trying to call AI out for trying to confuse people all the time, because that's clearly not the whole point of AI, right? But maybe there is some sort of bridge job that makes a lot of sense for somebody who has been in this industry. If there isn't one, I don't totally know what that next job is.
I will say this much. What to kind of add on what you were saying earlier, Rob. I joked with my wife the other day. It's like, I think in the future I'm just gonna have to be a handyman. Like, I have to be good at a bunch of different things, right? Not just online, but I got to figure out how to fix someone's plumbing. I got to fix, all these small things. But because one skill set I don't think is enough anymore. You need to have like a Swiss Army knife of things that you can do, whether it's cooking, cleaning, fixing the toilet, whatever.
I know you're like half kidding, but trust me, if you were like, I can be your handyman, I'd be like, come on over.
I can replace your faucet under an hour and have it
working.
Need help
with. Yeah. Like, YouTube videos aren't going to help me fix my faucet. Please, Roger, come over. All right. We love getting your feedback. So in that vein, let's check out the mailbag.
Mike shared his thoughts about Monday's no phone case discussion, and Mike writes, I'm definitely Team Roger on throw your phone on the bed. I do this all the time, and it feels great. I'm not sure if it's because it makes me feel like a superhero from being able to just throw my phone without breaking it, or maybe it's due to seeing it often done with guns in movies. As Google Gemini says, quote, it's a common trope in movies for a character to dramatically throw a gun on the bed, often to emphasize a sense of finality, exhaustion, or casual disregard for the weapon.
Is that really a thing? I'm sure
I don't have a gun that I casually throw on the bed, but like I do it with my phone. I will say that.
No, but I'm talking about the movies. Yeah. Like, is there like a famous?
Oh yeah, like
where someone's like, gun on bed, I'm done.
Oh, it's not even a gun on bed. For example, like your standard hard-boiled detective or PI. What do they do when they come? They throw their hat onto the hat rack, or they throw their coat. Like they have that thing before they open that bottle of scotch in a file cabinet somewhere.
Right, like it's been a long day.
Yeah,
Scarlet.
And that would explain why I only do the thing with the phone at the end of in the evening, like right before I'm about to go to bed. Like, all right, I'm done. The phone's done. No more talking to anyone. I just sort of flip and throw it on the bed. It does jive with my mindset in that particular
there's sort of like, the day is over. You know, I did it. Phone on bed.
I survived for tomorrow.
I can't think of any movies where the gun is literally thrown on the bed.
Me either.
That you probably have to go back like pre-90s for that, to where we didn't think about guns being these very dangerous things that they are. But I do notice that if it's a police officer coming home from work, a detective coming home from work, they come in the house, and that's the thing they do. There's always that one scene where they are literally taking the gun out of the holster, putting the gun. It used to be that they would just put it on put it on their night shelf or put it in a drawer or whatever. Now it's like you're putting the gun in the gun box, locking it up, closing the closet, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I do notice seeing that. I just watched this Denzel Washington movie. I can't remember the name of it, but it was like Inside Man. That was it. It was Spike Lee joint. Inside Man.
Yeah, that's a good movie.
And I remember, him coming home from his hard day of work, and he's taking his gun out and doing this in the other. And that's when he found the diamond. I don't want to give the movie away, but he found a diamond in his coat pocket that someone put in there. But it was when he was taking his gun out and putting it on his nightstand and all that kind of good stuff. So I do know that is a thing in a movie. I can't say that I've ever remember seeing the gun just thrown on the bed.
I can't either. Although I'm sure there are lots of examples of this. One of the things about, not even gun on bed, but just the trope of like, all right, I'm trudging back into the house, to close the door. Hats off, jacket, man, I'm so tired. The whole time, every time I see that, I'm just like, pick up your stuff, because somebody else has to clean up for you afterwards if you don't do it yourself. And maybe that says a little bit about me and my life.
Maybe that's what you need. You need to be like the mother in the movie, like, you pick up your clothes.
You pick up your things. I know you had a hard day, but you know what? You're a big kid. You put your hat on the hat rack. That's why it's there. You don't throw it into the living room willy-nilly.
I used to believe that the only point of having a tie based on movies and TV shows was to come home and just like it's strangling me. I gotta loosen my noose.
It's been so horrible.
The noose of the modern world is slowly being loosened.
So tomorrow will be Hat Friday, and I will be back with a brand new brim. So folks, you have to tune in if you want to see the new hat I'll be wearing tomorrow. But there's no way I'm just going to walk in the house, take my hat off that I paid good money for, just throw it all willy nilly, just wherever. That is not happening. These things are not it. It's not like I'm making a car note or anything like that. But these hats can cost anywhere from like $50 to $150, $200. It's like, I'm not just going to casually just throw my $150 hat just anywhere. It is going to go into the box or onto the shelf very, very neatly and make sure that that it's well taken care of.
I'm with you on that one, Rob. And I don't know. I sometimes I hearken back to like spring break days of hotel rooms where there were 5 girls in one room, and I mean, you've never seen such animals. Huh. Put your things away, okay? Put your things away. Thank you. Well, KV writes in about our accessibility conversation we had with Scott Johnson yesterday about games. Particularly, video game podcaster Jeff Gerstmann, who is colorblind, shared his personal experiences with managing his own colorblindness. He's more critical of the approach of the Ubisoft tool takes, but provides some good insights as to factors to consider beyond color swaps. KV links us to a YouTube video, says there is strong language in the YouTube video, so take that into consideration. But Roger, you know Jeff, right?
Yeah, I used to work with him over at GameSpot. I will say that oftentimes when it comes to accessibility, a lot of these tools are, or thinking pattern behind them are often taken from people who are able-bodied, and so they might not understand all the nuances that need to be involved because, Jeff is right, just a simple color swap will work, but it may not be the best approach, nor the most ideal. Right? If you made a game where all the characters looked exactly the same except for the fact that one's red, one's green, one's orange, you might want to reconsider, like, hey, maybe make these character models just a little different. So even if you weren't colorblind, there is some sort of differentiation beyond just a palette.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. If you do have feedback for us, we would like to hear it. Please send your feedback early and often to feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com.
So, folks, you have been submitting your titles over at dtns.showbot.tv, and you have been submitting them well. I believe we are well over 52 submissions at this point. I'm just going to read through a couple of them. So let's start off with Bot Cash Grab by GPEG84. That's a good one.
Oh, you bots and your cash grabs.
Reapply your scam skills for good. Sir ATW.
That's good.
Student Bots, Clinton Woodward.
Yep. Student bots.
Baby-Googs by G. James B.
What was Baby-Googs?
Because we're talking about baby bells, so they thought
Baby-Googs. Baby-Googs. That's funny.
Actually, that's actually a good one.
Yeah, that is a good one.
Here's another good one. Click work versus bot work. That's by Clinton Woodward.
Click work versus bot work.
C-Spawn chimes in with the comfort of retro devices.
That's good. Baby.
And let's see here. Saray TW's got another good one. I got 8 shots. A Polaroid ain't one of them.
That's a pretty good one.
So, Sarah, what did we decide to go with?
Well, even though Zoe's phone on bed, I'm done was one of my favorites, we did go with G. James SB's is Baby-Googs.
Baby-Googs.
Baby-Googs. Yep. I hope that if you're not watching or listening live and you see that title later, you're like, what in the heck is that?
Well, see, here's the thing.
We're going to get there. We're going to get there.
Yeah. That's how it's supposed to work. It's supposed to intrigue. I got to go listen to this show. I got to go watch this show.
What's a goog?
Who are they talking about?
And why are they babies? I need to click on this episode to find out.
What's a goog? Yeah, it's good stuff. Roger, we have people to thank because we have lots of people who support us every single day.
Yes, we have lots of people on the Twitch chat, including Zoe Brings Bacon, who cheered us on with bits, John Nexus TV, who followed us 21 hours ago, and Pele Glenda, who gave us a community sub gift, and Build the Builder, who followed us. Also like to give a shout out to Laminar Rainbow, who gave us a $5 shout out.
Very nice of you, Laminar Rainbow. Thank you.
Thank you. So cool. Thank you, one and all. It's always great to see the support that we get from people who watch the show and support us on Patreon.
Indeed.
So, folks, if you would like to get a recap of the week's tech headlines with insights on how technology affects and disaffects communities of color, then check out the Tech John, where host myself, that's Rob Dunewood, Stephanie Humphrey, and Terrence Gaves dive into the top tech stories of the week, delivered from points of view you don't always hear in mainstream media. New episodes land Tuesday afternoons. Find it wherever you get your podcast or visit thetechjawn.com.
You can watch our show live Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 2000 UTC. Monday through Friday. That's where we are. You'll always find us there. And you can also find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/live if you would like to hop in with us and be part of the fun. We're back doing it all again tomorrow. Happy Thursday, everybody.
The DTNS family of podcasts, helping each other understand.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.